Hello everyone, round 14 of the Women's National Basketball League is done, and this is what we can say about it. Adelaide's 9-match winning streak is over. Dandenong get a win over the Adelaide Lightning and break that streak. Logan go 2-0 on the road. The West Coast Waves break their own streak. Sydney and Bendigo go 0-2 on the road and plummet out of the top 5. And what's probably the best thing for me, Laurie Chiswick's been able to tear herself away from the tennis for long enough to come and film another episode. Laurie, how have you been going?
I tell you what, between the tennis and basketball, I'm filling all the hours of the day. It's sensational.
Yeah, no, you've at least gotten over your boy, Andy Roddick, getting beaten the other day by our Aussie Leighton Hewitt.
Yes, but now my man's Federer, so I hope he goes all the way.
All right, well, we spent time up in Canberra on Friday night looking at the game between Canberra and Logan. But before we get into that, just all the drama that's been happening, we want people to tell us about it, don't we, on Twitter and on Facebook and everywhere else.
Yep, the more they can get involved, ask questions. Me, Darren, anybody here, let's get those questions happening. All
right, now Canberra and Logan on Friday night, Laurie. The Logan Thunder got out to, they had a narrow 3-point lead at half-time, but they proved far too good in the second half.
Well, they did, Darren, but they were a little bit inconsistent, even though they did get the win. Good start to the game, slow second quarter, then came out just on fire, 24 points in that third quarter, and then sort of took their foot off the pedal in that last quarter again, but still a good victory over Canberra. It was,
I suppose, a typical performance from Logan, wasn't it? They had, I think, 26 in the first quarter and then 24 in the third quarter. And they have that ability to, they play in bursts regularly. Is it because they're still a young team, a relatively young team that's still maturing as a group, do you think?
I guess you could say that, but I tell you what, they're going to need to be more consistent coming into the finals. If they're going to beat those top teams, they have to play consistently for 4 quarters of basketball. Canberra, on the other hand, I really didn't think gave them much to worry about that whole game.
Carrie Graff was particularly disappointed after the match. Felt like it was one of their worst performances of the season. Bridget Ardossi was a real positive, and in fact, I think she's been a real positive over about the last 6 or 8 weeks.
Yeah, she certainly has. She's improved, and it's taken her quite a while to sort of get the feel of the league, but she's playing really well. But yes, disappointment, given that really was their season on the line, and I don't think anymore we can figure them into the finals picture.
No, I agree with you, and I suppose their record now is 7-11. It's just going to be far too difficult for them to get into the top bracket, particularly now, and we'll have a look at the ladder in a few minutes' time. It's even more congested after this week. But what will they do now? We know that Mariana Tolo's injured. She's not the only one. There are a few people around the league who are playing hurt at the moment. But it was obvious, and it has been for a couple of weeks. Will they put her in cotton wool, or will they try and develop a few more players down the last 3 or 4 weeks?
Oh, I think they'll still go in. I mean, the only way you can motivate your group is to still go in trying to win games and maybe cause upsets. And I don't think any team out there that's vying for those final spots will take the Canberra Capitals lightly. All
right, well, after the game, Kristen Veal, the captain of the Logan Thunder, was good enough to speak to Laurie Chiswick.
Kristen, great win for your club this afternoon. Really a lot of contributions all around from everybody.
Well, that's probably when we're at our best. We've had the tendency to get a little one out sometimes through the season and we lose those games. So the 3 games we've had after Christmas, lots of teamwork, and we've come out on top. So that's probably the key for us.
Certainly a great first quarter, a bit slow in that second quarter. What was said at halftime, because you came out on fire in the third quarter?
I think the key with our group is not to get them overexcited. So just to come in, give them a few facts, and build up a little bit of confidence and come back out there. I think the girls, you know, it's a habit of learning how to win, and I think we're starting to do that.
Well, certainly 15 points for you, 5 assists. Great game tonight, and good luck to the coming game against Sydney.
Awesome. Thanks, Laurie.
Congratulations to Kristen Veal, and also another beautiful job done by our very own Laurie Chiswick. Once again, just bringing the magic on the sidelines.
It was fun doing sidelines. Usually I'm in the commentary seat next to you, but it was great doing the sidelines.
Yeah, it's fun to escape me for a couple of hours. Yeah. Now, look, the other games, of course, in this pivotal round 14 were, well, the first one that we'll talk about was over in Adelaide, where the Lightning continued their winning streak. I said a bit earlier, that it was broken, but that came later in the weekend. The Bendigo Spirit went over there, and they were really disappointed with their performance. 70-54, the Lightning running out pretty comfortable victors. Laurie, Bendigo, shot 26% from the field, and I could not imagine a team winning a game shooting that.
Well, I don't care if they're the best defensive team in the competition. If you only shoot that percentage, you're never going to win a game. And I think Adelaide did a good job of forcing some bad shots, but yeah, they just weren't on at all.
Well, you mentioned that about them being the best, one of the best defensive teams, if statistically perhaps the best. Yeah, keeping Adelaide to 70 points is a pretty fair performance, but when you've got Richards and Madgen going 1 for 19, I know you spoke to Christy Harrow, and we'll have a bit more about that in a minute when we talk about the West Coast game, but did she have anything to say in particular about this match?
Well, it was a pretty physical game. She certainly pulled up a little bit sore as the game went on, and it's her Achilles, and she couldn't really explode out of there. But really, yeah, no, they weren't that happy with that performance. Well,
talking about pulling up sore, Shanavia Dowdell did after the match on Friday night between Townsville and Sydney. We knew, and we spoke about on our show last week, that she was a serious question mark going into that game, but she walked into practice on Friday morning, the shoot-around on Friday morning, and said to her coach, Chris Lucas, "Coach, I'm playing." And boy, did she play. 18 points, 16 rebounds. She was sensational and inspired the Townsville Fire to victory over Sydney in the Inferno Clutch, Laurie.
Oh, what a great effort by her. I love the fact that she got 16 rebounds. You know, everybody talks about points and that, but those rebounds, to get that double-double in the way she did is just sensational.
Spoke to Karen Dalton on Sunday afternoon, and once again, she was a bit disappointed. Talk about players playing hurt. We know that Belinda Snell's not quite at 100% fitness, and I just feel like the margin for error for Sydney is quite small because they rely so heavily on Snell, Denson and Poto. And sure, Ebzery and King and you know, these sort of players can give them some sort of an impact, but it is, and I think maybe they're being found out a little bit. Although, having said that, Laurie, they've lost 3 games by 1 shot.
Well,
Been
exactly.
A bit stiff.
You know, and you go, is that not playing? Is that playing poorly? Is that your guns not performing? You know, it's just so close to competition. I don't know that we can really say that.
No, I think you're probably right. It's probably being a bit unfair on Sydney to actually say that, but they were soundly beaten by the Townsville Fire in that match on Friday night. The AIS hosted the Bulleen Boomers on Saturday night, and unfortunately for the students, it was another pretty vicious lesson in the end. 6 Boomers made it to double figures in points scored, and Joe Leadham pinched the ball on 7 occasions. A lovely little finals tune-up for the Boomers.
Well, you know what? To me, that's a sign of a real class team in the Boomers win. We always knew they were going to win that game, but to win it by that margin shows that they're taking every game seriously and they want to get better every time they step on the court.
The Dandenong Rangers were desperate for a win and for a top 5 scalp, and they got one. The Adelaide Lightning went over there. They were obviously tired from having played Bendigo a couple of nights earlier. They went over to Dandenong and they were defeated by 20 points. Kathleen McLeod, a welcome return to form, 16 points, 7 assists, led the way for the Rangers. But the story here, Laurie, really was that Susie Batkovich didn't play for Adelaide.
Well, and that, you know, if you just looked at that scoreline without knowing that, you'd go, wow, what an amazing win by Dandenong. But I thought it was great when Coach Mark Wright actually acknowledged that at the end, saying, hey, they were without the league league MVP, leading scorer, and, you know, they had to make up for that.
Yeah, and that's pretty difficult. As Mark acknowledged, that's almost impossible for anybody to do. Abby Bishop battled hard, but it was really tough for her being a one-woman show.
And, you know, I think Adelaide went over there and came away actually really disappointed in their play. I know the coaches didn't feel like they really gave it a good effort. There wasn't a lot of heart and desire there. It was almost like they were defeated before they stepped on the court, and that's not a good way to approach a game.
The West Coast Waves were not favoured at all, really, let's be honest, Laurie, to knock off the Bendigo Spirit, particularly since Bendigo were desperate for the win, having lost to Adelaide the night before. But the Waves, there's just something about they had the ability to just pop up and put together a good game which will upset one of these top teams, and they did it here.
Absolutely, Darren. It was their last home game. They had nothing to lose whatsoever, and you know, you've got to be so aware of that. And as much as the coaches warned their players, that's exactly what happened in this game. They went into it thinking, well, we won't play Christy because she was sore, and that's a legitimate reason. I mean, you should be able to. Bendigo really should have been able to beat them without Christy. Having said that, you know, full credit to the West Coast Waves, and I think there's somebody we can give even more credit to is, Darren, they've got a new mascot, and they had a contest to name him, and it's Bruce, and we figured Bruce...
Hang on, they call the mascot Bruce?
Bruce, yes.
What's the derivation of Bruce?
I have no idea, but Bruce, you know, got his money's worth on the weekend when he was cheering and putting Christy Harrower off, and we know that she missed the last 2 free throws of the game to tie it up. So I guess well done to the Waves and Bruce.
Yeah, well, that's absolutely right. And then, just to clarify exactly what happened there, Christy didn't play at all in the first half, and then she came out in the second half because they were desperate to try and win the game. And then she missed the first free throw, and then deliberately missed the second to give themselves a chance to get the game to overtime or perhaps win it. But as Bernie Harrower perhaps said it best. He said in the Bendigo Advertiser this week over the weekend, he said, "We were crap." And well,
can't be any more blunt than that.
You cannot be any more blunt than that. Well, Karen Dalton didn't say the same thing, but her team lost by the same margin against the Logan Thunder. Olaf Lang was absolutely delighted. Once again, he got performers coming off the bench against Canberra in the earlier game on the weekend. Emma Langford was a real star. In this game, it was Corrie Montgomery came off the bench to score 18 points. The game was on the line right down to the final buzzer. Laurie, Belinda Snell had a chance to send the game into overtime or perhaps win it with 5 seconds left, and Kristen Veal stole the ball. It was a dangerous move from Veal. After the game, she said, I probably shouldn't have stuck my hand in there. She could have got a foul that sent Snelly to the line. Sydney were upset with the call. These things happen in basketball. Logan win.
Well, I thought Montgomery actually did a good job, played really good minutes in the game that we saw her play in Canberra. And so it was great for her to back up and play again against a quality team in Sydney. And she might just be somebody that could be that little bit of an X factor for Logan if she's getting better and better at the right time of the season with the finals coming up.
Well, let's have a look at the ladder now. And the Adelaide Lightning is still on top. The Bulleen edge closer. With the difference in the games played, it's always a little bit tricky to work out. But let's just say this. Their matchup in round 17, Laurie, is basically going to be for top spot. I don't know if you've gone out and bought new bathers, but we're getting ever closer to needing a trip to Townsville in the first weekend of the finals. And then after that, who knows what's going to happen? Logan, Bendigo, Dandenong, Sydney, all playing for those last 2 spots, it seems.
Well, Darren, there were so many movers in that ladder, up and down. Townsville moved up 3, Sydney moved down 3. You know, all those middle spots, those teams shifted. So, you know what? 4 rounds to go, still up in the air. Yeah,
and that's the thing. I just cannot, look at the runs home for each of the teams, and I know you put a bit of time into studying that. I can't tell you who's got an easy run home. They all seem to be, all of the teams who are involved still seem to be playing basically Adelaide and Bulleen and each other over the last few weeks.
Sydney's the only team that don't have Bulleen or Adelaide, and Dandenong have one of them. The rest have them 1 or 2 times.
Yeah, so it's going to be very, very tough. All right, well, now for all the latest news from around the WNBL, let's head to Catherine Murphy.
Thank you, Darren and Laurie. Well, we start with some injury news, and Adelaide's Susie Bakovic has been cleared of serious injury. She had scans after she suffered back spasms after the club's win over Bendigo at the weekend. She missed the club's clash against Dandenong and underwent an MRI scan. However, despite the positive results, she is still in doubt to play this weekend. She'll have to be assessed before the club make a decision. Next to the Player of the Week award, and Townsville's Shanavia Dowdle is the round 14 winner. It's a big effort by her, considering she suffered an injury scare last weekend. She hurt her ankle and was on a restricted training programme in the build-up to the game, but still managed to notch up 18 points and 16 rebounds in the club's win over Sydney Uni. The star importer, who has just re-signed with the club, also won the award in round 11. Finally, Canberra's Michelle Cozier will play her 200th WNBL game this week, and suitably, she will celebrate that milestone against her old club, Sydney Uni. Congratulations to her and best of luck during the game. That's it from me. Back to you guys.
Well, Michelle Cozier's 200th game, Laurie, is coming up on Thursday night. Australia Day special up there at the Sydney Uni Sports and Aquatic Centre. I'm going to be there for WNBL radio, so you can check out, you can listen to the game broadcast through WNBL.com.au, or you can download the Red Time Sport app if you've got an iPhone. But they play the Sydney Uni Flames, Canberra, and this is going to be a particularly difficult game. The teams are 1-1 so far this season.
Well, you know, we talked earlier, what do Canberra play for now? Well, having a milestone like that for a player like Michelle Cozier is a great thing to play for. Your teammates, they'll really want to go out and rally behind her and get the W.
Yeah, I agree with you, absolutely. But I tell you, if anybody needs a win, it's the Sydney Uni Flames at the moment.
And they have come so close, as you mentioned, that really you have to think it's their time to get on a bit of a winning streak, get back up there where they were at the beginning of the season and winning game after game, and sort of really consolidate prior to the finals. They do have the easiest run home.
Yeah.
Well, when you say easy, you know, we still have
There's no
Canberra's,
gimmies.
yeah, exactly. Just not Adelaide or Bulleen.
Yeah. All right, what about Adelaide? They play the Logan Thunder on Friday night. It's our ABC TV match for broadcast, so you can actually catch the action on Saturday afternoon right around the country on ABC TV. Check your guides. But Laurie, the Thunder, I reckon they need a big scalp. You know, they're coming into the finals. I'm a North Melbourne football supporter, and they're a bit like my team. They tend to beat everyone below them, but they do struggle to beat the teams that are above them on the ladder.
Well, you know, they've got the goods.
Yep.
You know, a good coach, good structures in place out there. I just think it's totally dependent on whether Susie actually travels, makes that that road trip, whether she plays 1, 2, or no games at all. I think if Susie isn't there, then absolutely they should have a very good chance. Kayla Francis, we know, is in great form. If Susie does go, well, then it'll depend on her fitness level. But I think if ever there's a time to get Adelaide, it's now.
This is it. Yeah, absolutely right. And Olaf Lang was talking to me after the game on Sunday, and he said he's been thrilled with their defence for Logan. He said since about half-time, the match before Christmas against Townsville, he said we've been a different team defensively. You'd notice that on the court, no doubt?
Well, I did. I certainly, in our televised game, I thought they forced Canberra to take some unorthodox shots, a lot at the end of the shot clock. They were working really hard to prevent any flow happening on offense, and I was really impressed. Bulleen
and Bendigo is the next match for our discussion, and Laurie, once again, these teams are 1-1. The season splits don't really matter for Adelaide and Bulleen anymore, because they're only going to be tied potentially, we think, with each other. So season split between Bendigo and Bulleen at 1-1 doesn't matter for that perspective, but what it means is, of course, that Bendigo have knocked them off once, and well, I'll tell you, again, like we said about Logan, boy, do they need a win.
Well, they do too. Both of them do, actually, though, Darren, because Bulleen are now in a position that if they win all the rest of the games, including Adelaide, they'll finish top spot. Now, that's an important thing. And Bendigo, they won't be worried about the you know, what's gone on in the past. They just need a W, pure and simply.
A team that shot as terribly as Bendigo did on the weekend, and let's ignore the Christie injury. What do you do as a coach? Because we know they're not that bad. Like, they're sort of, you know, they're about average in terms of their field goal shooting. One of their best features is their offensive cohesion when they're playing well. But what do you do when they've shot 26% in Adelaide and then 32% in Perth?
Well, you would encourage your players to get out and get up lots of shots this week. And the problem with them is that when they're hitting, they're great.
Yep.
But what they've got to do is find that level that if they're not hitting those shots, they have different ways of scoring, maybe inside to Richards or penetration, and they've got to rely on their defense. But they just fluctuate like this right now, and that's the story of their season.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. So that will be a fascinating game. Get out to the Bendigo Club if you can on Saturday, Bulleen and Bendigo. Now, the Townsville fans have been making no friends in terms of their opponents, Laurie. They have been cheering up a storm. They've been packing out that venue, making it really, really difficult for the Townsville Fire's opponents, and the girls are rewarding them. They play the Adelaide Lightning on Saturday night.
Well, again, Adelaide will be coming off of that tough game against Logan, whether they have Susie or not. And I feel like Townsville, you know, I looked at the ladder, and as you know, I love to study the run homes. I really think they will probably finish third.
Yeah.
And so, again, this is a home game for them. They're going to really want to consolidate. And if they can get a big scalp, wow, that'll feel great going forward.
I tell you, if they beat Adelaide, I reckon that does put them in the box seat. I know Chris Lucas probably doesn't like us talking about that. He's a one game at a time man, very strict about that. But I want to throw this at you, Laurie. 7 teams have done the Queensland double, played Logan and Townsville on the same weekend. Adelaide is one of just 2 of those 7 that have played Townsville second. They've had a tough draw, the Fire. 5 out of the 7 teams have gone to Townsville first and then gone back to Logan.
Yeah, well, that's interesting more from Logan's standpoint. We say they haven't got a big scalp, but because teams would prepare more for that first team that you play on the road double. So certainly Townsville now have that luxury of watching them play against Logan and waiting for them.
Yeah, absolutely right. And the final game for the weekend is at the AIS Training Hall. The students are taking on the Dandenong Rangers, and it'll be interesting, Laurie. We know the Rangers are still fighting for form. You mentioned a little bit earlier what a really professional performance the Boomers put on in, basically taking apart the young AIS team. And I suppose Dandenong fans will be looking for their team to do similar things.
Well, I would think now that with the idea of resting Christy O'Hara in that loss, you might think, well, maybe we should rest Jenna in that, but I don't think any team really can afford to, and plus you want to build on this unless you're really injured. So they'll want to try and, not only beat them, but have a significant margin as well.
And I think also for much of this season, the AIS have been playing teams really hard. They've only won 1 game, and they have been blown out a few times, but there've been a lot of results in that sort of 8 to 16 point bracket where it's not super close, but if a few things go your way, then maybe they might sneak a win. So you can't take them too easily.
And often, Darren, they're close up to at least half-time, sometimes three-quarter time, and it's usually the more experienced teams that then find that way to win and go ahead in that 4th quarter.
All right, Laurie, that's about all we've got time for on iTV. It was just flown by once again.
Well, Darren, just the last 4 weeks are coming up, and we study the run home, and we say it week in and week out, but what an amazing season we're having.
We trust you're enjoying it wherever you're watching your WNBL, whether it's through us on ITV, through the live stats on the website, WNBL Radio if you're tuning into that, or on ABC TV. We look forward to your company again next week as we talk all things Women's National Basketball League here on WNBL ITV.